Well, good evening, everyone. It is the Great White Stoke coming at you from the Great White North. Taking a little walk this evening. You might hear the snow crunch under my feet. The moon is full, and all of the snow is illuminated. You don't even need a headlamp to walk around here. It's been a fairly good week, and for three reasons. One, the family that we get our eggs from was back out at the local coffee shop, so we got a couple dozen of some farm fresh eggs. Two, we were able to secure some raw milk coming from California, where you can just go to health food stores and buy it by the gallon. Up here in Alaska, for some strange reason, they don't let you purchase it. It's illegal. You can't go to a store and buy it, but you can join a farm share and get it from there. So that's what we did. We found a family up in Nikiski that has a small dairy and gave her a small fee to join the co-op and paid her $8 for a gallon of raw milk in this huge glass jar. And the wife and I were so over the moon, the entire family, we drank the entire gallon in one night. We can't wait for next week where we could get another gallon. And third, I got into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo, the local one, and got tuned up because I haven't been there for a while. And so I had to contend with dudes that had me by 70 pounds and were brown belts. And good Lord, I'm a little sore from that. But I digress, like Southern Paladin does. But we're not going to give ourselves too much of a hard time. So, going off grid, it's a big decision. And you don't have to go from civilization to living in a shack, pooping in an outhouse, living off what you kill. You can kind of segue into that, and that's kind of like what my family and I did. But this has been a long time coming. You know, I come from a family where my grandfather built his cabin and ultimate home in the mid-60s in the Sierra Nevada, and I've been going up into the mountains as a little boy forever. So I came to love nature and being outdoors, not necessarily being a hunter or a fisherman per se, but just being out in it, exploring, learning what it is to not have like all sorts of external stimuli. I was never one for video games or anything like that. But it was shortly after we sold our home, where we were in between where we wanted to go, where we wanted to live, yada, 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 that we went and stayed at the family cabin for a while. And living at the family cabin, we were an hour away from any type of civilization. There was no local gas station. We had to drive literally an hour to get to the gas station and then drive back an hour up to the mountain. And that was not off grid, besides us having our own well. We had, a local power connection. Our neighbor, who was from LA, he had Wi-Fi, so we were able to, get some Wi-Fi from him in exchange for like helping him out at his property. He had a couple cedar trees that had been left in his driveway, so I bucked those up for him, since he didn't have a chainsaw. And the wife and I have been discussing Alaska for a long time, since at least 2013. And we decided to make the big leap. And even if we hadn't come to Alaska, we would have remained outside of the city and lived rural. And there's a few reasons why. Mainly our children. there is no stranger danger when you're in a rural area, especially up here in Alaska. We don't have to worry about somebody walking down the street, checking the doors and windows, or driving by the house and, snatching up the kids. The only thing you got to worry about is maybe the errant moose that might be here, or given the season, a black bear or a brown bear. But other than that, you don't have to worry about somebody targeting you. Not only that, there's just less stress being out in a rural area with less people. Since I've been up here in Alaska, I haven't seen one lowrider vehicle bumping profane rap music. There are no Latin radio stations up here. There are no rap music stations up here. You see a lot of families up here. And that was one of the big things of living in a city. You're just inundated by noise pollution, light pollution, RFID, EMF, people, traffic. I remember being in Gardena, where my mother-in-law lived, and trying to go to sleep there. And, when you get over the Grapevine and you get into like the LA area, the city never sleeps. It's just going. The street lights are humming. People are moving. People are shaking. Radios are blaring. Planes are landing. Factories are going. I mean, we were like not too far away from the Nissan Cup of Soup factory. There's just, everything is bolted, welded, or fenced. It's dirty down there. I mean, really the only things I miss about California are, one, easy access to raw milk. Two, some really good health food stores. Three, the skate parks. And, I would say like Yosemite and some of the national parks. Obviously, I miss my ancestral land down there, but really living up in Alaska is like living in one giant epic national park. I mean, every day my children get to see moose, nature. If we're lucky, we get to see the northern lights. And there's a real sense of community out here. And down in California, it's getting to the point where just because you live on the good side of town doesn't mean anything. I mean, it sounds like Schaef lives in a pretty nice suburb, but, you've got vagrants targeting that area now, walking around, knocking on doors, asking for handouts. And, when I was living in California, I was living in a small town where you could easily bike from the bad side of town to the good side of town in a half hour. And when you've got riffraff and low-level criminality that can make that bike trip, at that point, is there really a good side of town? No, I mean, the houses are bigger, the houses are nicer. You've got Acuras, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Escalades in the driveway, but you can't have anything nice on your front porch because it will get stolen, even potted plants. If you've got an alleyway, you're going to have riffraff jump the fence. You got people checking your cars when you're at the store. If you linger too long somewhere, someone might just cut off your catalytic converter. It's nuts. I mean, I remember walking down the street one time and some dude driving his Hyundai Sonata was too busy on his phone. He jumped the curb, damn near run me over, clipped the sign on the sidewalk, and then just kept going like nothing happened. And it was at that point that I told myself, it's time to get out of here. Because what you were seeing, especially in Central California, was that there are people that are coming here that shouldn't be here. And if they say run somebody over, they just go back over the border, wait it out a little while, and then come back over with a new identity, a new name. And nobody's the wiser. Right now, what you're seeing in the little town I grew up in, people are getting shot now downtown. Gang activity is out of control. It's no longer safe to live there anymore. And the law-abiding citizen is really becoming persona non grata. They're being put in between a rock and a hard place because low-level criminals are being emboldened because there is no recourse for what they pull. So you see businesses just being robbed. You're seeing small business owners having to contend with just the loss of inventory and nothing will happen. You're seeing nonviolent criminals just being let out early because they're nonviolent, because it's become too much of an expense to hold them in a prison. You're seeing violent criminals getting let out early because it's too expensive to keep them in prison. Likewise, you're seeing the chomos getting let out early because it's too expensive. And it's become too expensive because of the public employees. They're getting huge salaries combined with huge benefits packages that the average working person in California will never get. On top of that, they're getting these huge retirements where you put in 20 years, you're going to get 90% of your salary in perpetuity until you die. Not only that, you're having double dipping public employees. So they'll put in their 20 years, get out, and because they have the in, they know everybody at the municipality or at the state-run level, they'll go back in. So they'll get out, they'll get their retirement check, and then they'll go back and get another paycheck while putting more in to another pension. And they don't think that that's wrong in any sense. I recall getting on a Citizens Financial Oversight Committee because I was harboring secret desires to maybe get involved in local politics, right? And I recall one meeting where I had this city accountant come down and get before us, and without batting an eye, let everyone know at this Citizens Committee that employee pensions are going to balloon 500% in 5 years. Now, where are they going to get that money? Because it doesn't grow on trees. They've got to come after the people that are working. They're not getting it off the people that are being subsidized. No. It's the business owners that they're getting it from. It's not the big corporations that are getting the big tax breaks because they bring jobs like, Walmart and Target, all the big firms that come with the requisite strip malls that drive the small guy out of business. No. They're getting it from the average working class person that's not getting subsidized. And on top of that, as a business owner, you're seeing the regulations down there put more power into the employees' hands versus the business owner's hands, so that the employee can pretty much get away with murder, but yet the liability falls on the business owner. Or tenants have more power than the actual property owner. Or you can have squatters just come onto your property. If it's vacant, set up shop, and then you are required to go through all of the legal channels and get the sheriff involved. And that is a huge financial burden. It takes a lot of time, and nobody is helping you out. You might be able to go down to one of those legal self-help centers that they have, and I've been to one of those to fill out paperwork before, but they're not giving you any advice. They're saying, oh, what's your problem? Okay, this is where you put your name. This is what you're trying to do. Check that box there. And this is what it's going to cost. So getting off grid and getting out of the city was just an imperative. It was an important aspect to my life. I was done dealing with the overregulation. I was done being put between a rock and a hard place, to where the normal everyday person is now a victim, and you can't defend yourself in California. Not only that, talk about trying to purchase a firearm there. Okay, yeah, go through that rigmarole. Now you got to pass a background check just to buy the ammunition. We're not even talking about how you got to pay exorbitant fees just to register your car every year. And then every 2 years, you've got to smog it. Up here in Alaska, if your car's over 7 years old, you get a Z tag. You only pay registration once. And it is a beautiful thing to be in a financially solvent state where freedom is a very cherished thing. And people at the dojo were asking me, so where are you from? California. What brought you up here? California, right? When I was on the ferry with my family coming up here, during the whole COVID thing and in the real estate bubble, you were seeing this big California exodus, right? People were moving to Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, the Carolinas, the Virginias, Florida. They were getting out of California and going to other states where they could have some sense of normalcy, right? And experience some level of freedom and less government intrusion. And so when I was on the ferry coming up here, I started talking to all the people that were coming up. And all of them pretty much had the same answer. They had sold their house to Californians way over asking price for gobs of money, and that they were coming up here to Alaska. And there was an old fart that I was talking to he said, I'm jealous because your wife is with you. My wife has no interest coming up to Alaska. That's why I'm coming up by myself. He's like, but I tell you this, if you start talking to all these people, you're going to find out that there's a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of different thought patterns, but there's going to be a unifying thread connecting us. And that unifying thread is the pioneering spirit, a sense of boldness and bravery to come out to an area that is essentially still a frontier in many, many ways. Now, getting to Schaef, you got kids that are in school and like to play baseball. And your wife doesn't want to go off grid. Again, you don't have to go 100% off grid. You can find a smaller town away from it all where you're not having to deal with all sorts of inner city problems. Shopping is not that big of a deal if you can get to a grocery store 30 minutes away. Nordstrom's isn't that big of a deal. So yeah, this is why I'm off grid. 1, for my children. 2, for my sanity and mental health. And 3, just to experience a more authentic life. You know, there's a saying, you know, don't get so caught up making a living that you forget to, you know, make a life. You know, the rat race will keep you on that turnstile, running, 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 right? And it's a very unfair trade-off to work 40 plus hours a week, 5 days on, and then you get 2 days off. And so all the stuff that you've been having to put off all week are waiting for you there. You know, it's a very good thing to live frugally, cut back on your expenses, and be able to have some real freedom and leisure time. You know, all of this technology that we've been given, it was supposed to increase our leisure time, but has it really increased our leisure time, or has increased people's sitting on ass time, right? People just aren't doing much with themselves. It's a shame. So, for anyone thinking about it, yeah, get out of the city. Get rural as best you can. Get your own source of water. Generate your own power. Get your own chickens. You know, get your own garden, right? Stop thinking that keeping up with the Joneses is such an important thing. Money comes, right? It's never going away. And if you're smart with it, you'll have it. You know? It's a beautiful thing. My kids love it up here, right? Kids are very, right, malleable, right? They used to be in the city, and now they're up here, and they love it. So yeah, that's what we got going up here. Good God, almost 22 minutes. Way too long. Hope you guys are well. Take care.